Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the show. We roll into these things.
I was in the middle of a big emphasis.
For what?
When I was telling you about the big boudoir picture we'll put above our bed.
Oh. Those of you that are listening that have no idea what it is that she's doing with her hands right now or what we look like, we've talked about creating a little bit more masculine studio.
There's a bomb in it, though.
Technically a bomb. It's a love bomb. As you can see, we're just rotating art, I guess.
We're open to art sponsors. Original pieces only. This used to be above our bed.
This was in our bed, and the one last week, the Statue of Liberty, is my friend Scott.
So beautiful.
Oh, yeah, something on my nose. Anyways, this is really cool. So it looks good, but we have some plants now. We have two plants. Saxony calls them our...
They are office babies.
Office babies. And so
new.
for those of you that are listening right now, it looks really fantastic. If you're not watching this, we have new plants and a new art piece.
It's not more masculine at all.
It's cool. It's fine. Guys, welcome to the show. So before we get started, I want to say one thing really quick. And you don't know that I'm saying this. We really don't rehearse this, but like, I really, really, really appreciate you guys tuning in. I really do. I really appreciate the feedback. We literally read through hundreds of messages, not only on my Instagram, Facebook, her Instagram, Facebook, and it's super, super, super rad. I wanted to preface this and say, like, this is our show, okay? If you've ever done a podcast, you know it's scary, it's intimidating, it's vulnerable. Doesn't matter if you're talking about politics, whether you're talking about money, doesn't matter. Like you're putting yourself out there, right? Yeah. And I get that, and you get that, and I appreciate that. But if this is your cup of tea, dope. Yeah. If it's not your cup of tea, dope. That's totally cool. There's really no one making you listen to this show. There's no one making you watch this. There's no one that is telling you, hey, you know what? I need to be an asshole today and go leave negative reviews for a show that I really don't care about or two people that I don't like. I want you to like really think through that for 2 seconds. Like if you don't like us or like me, why are you watching? Like why are you here? You understand what I'm saying? Go someplace else. But more than not, 99.9% of the comments and the feedback is great. But it's just fascinating to see how people get really, really, really triggered. Like the cool part about this show for me is like, this is doing a podcast. I've done dozens and dozens and dozens of my own podcast episodes and then done hundreds of interviews. And like, I love doing podcasts, but doing a podcast with your wife, it's fucking scary. It's intimidating. I don't want to say that it's difficult, but it's like, we're putting our life out there and I'm totally cool with that. And I love it and I appreciate it, or else I wouldn't be doing it. But it's like, if this isn't your cup of tea, that's totally fine. This is our life. These are our experiences. This is what we have learned, what we continue to learn, what we continue to evolve into and through. And, you know, maybe this isn't what you read in your last relationship book. Maybe this isn't what the last YouTube video you watched
We're
talked
not the
about
Hollises.
or preached.
Oh, wait, never mind.
Oh, boy, we
won't
want to
go there. Another episode.
Anyways, like, just on that notion, like, we're all in with this deal. And knowing that the good, the bad, the ugly, the happy, the funny, the sad, the whatever, like, this is what we're experiencing in our life. This is what we're learning. This is what we're evolving into. You're talking to two people that have had a lot of light and a lot of darkness, have both been married and divorced, have both struggled with depression, both gone through crazy shit, and we're here talking about it. And, you know, I appreciate that, not only for doing that with you, but like for the people that tune in that have gotten something out of this, awesome. Yeah. But if it's not your cup of tea, like, go piss in somebody else's Cheerios. So just really
I think
simple.
Those are just our biggest fans.
That's probably true.
I mean, if you're going to dedicate that much of your life to something you don't like, you obviously, like, it's doing something for you.
Yeah, it's true. Anyways, well, that being said, I just I wanted to say thank you to everybody for listening and for tuning
thank you
in
for following our official Facebook page.
Official Facebook page. If you're not already following, if you're listening to this, like, jump over, follow the page, subscribe, like, please leave us a comment. That Q&A last week, everybody loved that. We will do
another one really soon.
We got a ton of feedback on that. People really, really, really liked the Q&A. It was super kind of off the cuff and whatever else. I liked it. I think it's funny, and it's like not a singular topic or whatever else, just all over the place. But we decided today, based off of comments and people that we've been talking to talk about probably the most important thing, not just in relationships, but I believe truly in life, and it's communication.
Yep.
And there's 1,000 different ways we can go with this, but as we talked about, like what we wanted to share today and what we wanted to talk about, communication literally is the single thing that solves every single problem, in my opinion. You know, a lack of communication starts wars. An abundance of communication ends wars. You know, an abundance of communication, clear communication, honest communication, truthful communication solves pretty much every single problem you could ever imagine. I mean, you name the issue, it can be solved by communicating. You have beef, you have strife, you have drama, you have this, you have that. Communication, right? You're not vibing in your marriage, you're not vibing in your relationship, communication. You're not vibing in your sex life, communication.
Right.
You're not vibing with an ex, you're not vibing with your kids are over here, over there, communication. And as we talked about this, I got really excited because this is something that you and I have both struggled with in previous relationships.
Definitely.
But also, you and I have leveled, I mean, for lack of better words, you and I have leveled the fuck up. Yeah. In our communication. Just in the year that we've
1.0 to 2.0 even.
Yeah, that we've been doing this. So, communication to me is literally at the heart of everything that we do. Yeah. You know what I mean? And as we talked about this, there's a book that we're going to reference today that we want to use as kind of the foundation or the platform, if you will, of this conversation. And it's, for those of you that are not watching this, it's Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. I've read this. Saxony has read this.
Numerous times.
Numerous times. I've read this book.
You can read it in a day.
You can. You can read it in a day. I suggest you read it multiple times. But it is, in my personal opinion, it is the single greatest book ever written on communication.
Absolutely.
I truly believe, and I've shared this with thousands of clients. I've shared this with Lions Not Sheep, with my coaching. I've shared this from stage. I've shared this in events, on podcasts, that like, if you truly embody the four agreements, if you truly live the four agreements personally, there's nothing you can't do. Yep. There is no relationship you can't build. There is no business that you can't start and dominate. There is no ex that you can't have a new reality with in building a friendship and building a connection. And truthfully, it doesn't matter where you're at in life, in your relationship. Let's assume for a second, even though you're not supposed to assume. Let's just assume.
that's one of the four conditions.
Yes, one of the four agreements. Like, not assuming, but just assume for a second that you're married and you're with somebody right now. Like, there is literally the single most important thing that you will do together as a couple is learn to communicate. Yeah.
Well, it's because people want to be they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to feel like they've been understood, and there's so much love in that, and that's why it's like it diffuses all types of tension and resentment.
But it also educates. Like, when you're able to share honestly what you really are, who you really are, what you really think, what you really feel, it changes the entire game. I know that a lot of my life, a lot of the experiences that I've had in relationships, I've not been impeccable with my word. I've not been honest because, number one, I didn't know how to. I didn't understand vulnerability. I just understood like what was socially acceptable, what was to be said, what was comfortable for everybody, which ultimately ended up with me being uncomfortable, you know, through the entire experience. But for those that don't know, we'll start here, babe. And interrupt me if you want to inject something, because I know that we have a couple things that we want to talk about.
We have many.
Number one, the book again is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, okay? And there are four literal agreements, then we're going to dive into these. The first one is be impeccable with your word. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. And the fourth agreement is always do your best. Now, you and I have two experiences, but we have 1.0 that we call it, which is the first time that we dated. Yeah. Before you dumped me. And then
this is why.
Right. We have 2.0. So talk for a minute about 1.0 and the reality of our communication or lack thereof and why it is that this is so important to us today.
Yeah. So the reason we broke up was because we were not living in the 4 agreements.
Let me stop you there. The reason you dumped me.
The reason I dumped Sean is that it's not just a he. I just was, pulled the trigger. We were not living the 4 agreements.
Right.
And part of what I see too in dating is people are too afraid to be seen to actually live in this. Because to be impeccable with your word is to speak your truth, which is a very scary thing to do, because then we've talked about this in past episodes, is you risk being rejected, right? So my ownership in what went wrong 1.0 was that I never spoke my truth to you. Now I was not impeccable with my word, is what I'm saying there. When you would do something that would hurt my feelings, instead of saying something to you, I would just not put a notch. And instead of saying, hey, when you aren't being impeccable with your word, when you say, I'm going to show up, we're going to go on this date, and then I'm not coming, I'm lying on multiple levels, because I'm making assumptions. I'm not asking you what's really going on. And with not being impeccable with my word is I'm not even honoring myself. So I was just playing. We were both playing so small and tossing it back and forth. And I took a lot of it personally. And I never told you. So by strike 3 of making plans and not showing up and not being impeccable with your word, I just was done and dumped you. And it's really unfortunate or it's not unfortunate. It's fortunate because I learned a great deal about myself and the fact that I wasn't doing that. And so much of growth in life is becoming aware of what we are not aware of. And that was a huge game changer for me.
What I've learned about communication, about myself, and not just being able to stand up on stage, but in really understanding the 4 agreements, specifically in a relationship. It's really easy to play small.
Right.
Okay. You and I played small. You and I were used to a certain pattern. We were used to the highlight reel. We were used to the easy. We were used to talking the high level shit. And it didn't work for either of us. We were both at a turning point. And people that are dating, listen to this, because this is really what catapulted us. People ask all the time, both of you and I, how did you guys do this? It kind of was fast. You dated a little bit, and then when you got back together, it was just getting engaged in October, we're married in February, boom, done. We're moving this ball down the field. Yeah. And I truly believe that it happened by you and I stepping back and saying, the way that we're doing things isn't working. Okay. Now, if you're dating right now and you're in this cycle of dating, right? You're dating for a couple of months, and then this happens, and then that happens, or whatever. Listen up, because we understand this. This is literally what we just went through and what we did, right? What I find interesting is you and I did the same thing that most other people do. You get together, there's a physical attraction, obviously. You like the person, how they look, you get connected, you start dating, you're sharing the highlight reels, it's high level shit. You're saying the things that you think are socially acceptable. When we first start dating, when I bail or when I say we're going to do something and then I don't, you don't want to be well, I don't want to be that bitch that's well, fuck you then.
I'm fine.
Exactly.
I'm fine. I'm not fine. Oh, you jerk.
Exactly.
It's
and it built up resentment.
Yep.
It built up frustration by you not being impeccable with your word. Now, by me
1000%.
saying, let's do this, and then bailing or having my own insecurities or my own things, it's interesting because you and I are literally the spitting image textbook of why when you don't communicate, it won't work, right?
Yeah.
Initially out of the gates, there's all of the really cool connection, right? You feel really jacked up, so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden, when real shit comes, when real feelings come, when real emotions come, it's built up resentment. It's built up frustration. It's built up anxiety, right? And not being impeccable with your word or literally just speaking your truth. Yeah. I think a lot of people I had a misconception of, I'm just going to say what I think is going to be the easiest thing to say here, which if I'm not being impeccable with my word, if I'm not telling the truth, I'm lying. Yeah. And there is no buttering this thing up. You and I have talked about this. There is no buttering up. This is either truth or it's a lie. If what's coming out of my mouth is not the truth, the God's honest truth, then it's a lie. It doesn't matter how much you try and seduce it. you work it, you manipulate it, you try and make it a message that'll be more accepted or less painful or less direct, it's a fucking lie. Period. End of story. And so I think from 1.0 to 2.0, you and I both learned that, like, in order for us to work, we're going to have to be, like, radically fucking transparent, radically honest for me. Like, in sharing with you my fears, my emotions, different things, you know, along those lines. And now our conversation was obviously a lot further down the road, just in the what we talked about, right? But being radically fucking transparent and radically honest. Now, fast forward today to being married, okay? We've talked about this at length, and we talk about this with clients, and we talk about this with other couples and people and stuff like that. Like, being impeccable with your word is really, 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 in my opinion, the most important thing to be able to build something with somebody. Now, case in point, we'll share some experiences on this. Like, if I ask Saxony, like, how are you?
I'm fine.
And you say you're fine. I have to, in me living the 4 agreements, I'm going to believe you. I have to trust you, right? This was so fucking hard for me because I lived most of my life with people and myself not being impeccable. Okay, so then I would naturally assume, okay, well, you sound this way, or this sounded, no, tell me what's really going on. Where are you really at? I'm fine. And then what happens 99.9% of the time, it turns into a fucking explosion.
Right, because you don't have trust that they're telling the truth, and you don't have trust because you know you're not telling the truth, and you get in this cycle of you're already assuming, which is one of the 4 agreements not to, you're assuming that the other person's not telling you the truth to begin with. So this is a massive way to build trust in yourself and in your relationship, because, I mean, if you go around, you know, like, if you come in the door and I ask you, how are you? I know you're going to tell me the truth. I know you're going to say, I'm in a shitty mood. And I then get to say, okay, do I trust what he told me is true? Okay, based on our relationship, yes, I do trust what you say is true. And part of me living the 4 agreements is I'm not going to assume it's about me.
Or take it personally.
I'm not going to take it personally.
Right.
Like, because if I do that, then I rob you of your own experience. That's your will. And I'm then projecting myself onto what's happening with you. And that's so unfair. When if I truly love you, this is part of unconditional love, is I'll just hold space for you to have an experience, and I don't have to go down or put gasoline on your fire by taking it personally. Right.
Well, now take that one step further. And guys, this is, you're talking about 2 people that have egos, that are movers, that are shakers. Like, we wanted to share this because it's so fucking real to us. But, you know, using these visuals and these real experience to me is what I really enjoy, because it helps tie everything together. But like, walking in the door, like, just using that as an example. When I say to you truth, when I say I'm having a shitty day, or today sucked, right? Now, I do my best to come home and reframe my mind, or this, that, or the other. What's really, really, really cool about this 2.0 version of you and I, and what we both decided to do, was really live the 4 agreements. Not just read it and talk about it, but fucking embody it like 150%, because the only way that you and I would work, I truly believe the only way any couple will work, whether you're already married and you want to grow and get even deeper, whether your marriage is on the fucking rocks, whether you're just brand new married, like, there is nothing more important than embodying this individually. So when I come in and I'm like, I'm having a shitty day, you have 2 choices. Okay. Or take it personally, is make it about you. What did I do? Why are you mad? Why can't you come home this way? Why can't you do this? But here's what's interesting. And this is something that I had to learn, that you had to learn, that you and we're both really fucking good at, is I know that when I'm in that space, right, I'm going to tell you the truth. And it's my job, and my job alone, to move out of that. Meaning, I'm going to have to go do whatever I have to do, whether it's drive around the block, whether it's go do some push-ups, whether it's go smoke a cigar, whether it's go to the gym. I have to do what I need to do to get me right, to get me good, to get my mind right. You have to trust that I'm going to go do that. And I have to trust that you're going to give me the space to go do that.
Right. And just a side note too, is you have to also, we are human beings and we're emotional beings. So there's going to be times that we don't show up in our best selves and we are projecting. We're emotional people living, and it's like some days we come in and we project the fuck on each other like crazy. And this is when this skill set is so important, because like if I come in and I'm like, well, you and this and them, you can identify that it's like, this is, even if I have a laundry list of shit you did wrong, it's still about me. Mm-hmm. Hands down, it's always about me. And I will go back around, because this happens to us. Like, I'm going to speak truth. Like, I'm not going to pretend like you and I just have these, like, heightened relationships where we never fucking slip up and we're assholes. Like, we're assholes sometimes. But to come back is the thing is we will always, and we do, 100% of the time, we come back to this and we're like, all right, I was totally projecting on you. That was not your shit. Like, even though I told you it was your fault and I gave you a list of all the shit you suck at, it's my shit. And we know that. Mm-hmm. And we also that's where the grace comes in. We give that grace of like, all right, like, you're either hormonal girl or
even that. No, like this is what's dope is we learned early that when Sax is hormonal, when it's that time of the fucking month,
it's a thing.
She's not nice. She's not pleasant. She's not pleasant to be around. Nice, you're emotional. You're always fucking crying and whatever. And I'm being a fixer. Like, I want to help you. I want to make it right. And you just told me, you're like, look, I just need to have 2 or 3 days where you just fucking leave me alone. Don't take anything personally. Yeah. Like, don't make it about you. Nothing. And that communication, you speaking truthfully to me, I then look at it and it's really clear now. When I look at you or you look at me and say, I'm hormonal, I automatically know. Bing, boom, done.
2
I'm
days,
good to go.
I won't poke the bear.
I won't take anything personally. I won't, and I try not to anyways. Yeah. But that clear communication sets the table for me to be able to have my expectations, do what it is that I need to do, and same thing with you. And then when it kind of that ends, the period's over, no pun intended, you're like, I'm good. And I'm like, sweet, back to normal. We can be back to fucking normal. But I think this is, you and I have learned through trial and error, through this experience.
A lot of trial and error.
That you can't take anything personally. Yeah. And you can't make assumptions about things. We talked about an experience that you had this morning, like one of the first experiences that you had with me with this. You remember what we were talking about? You shared this morning about the one day when you were
this was before we lived together.
Right.
And I was at home and I was having a bad day. I don't know if I could have been hormonal or, I mean, who knows. But I was having a bad day and I just told you. I said, listen, I'm not feeling it today. I'm in a bad mood. So just hang out, give me some space. And you're like, okay, cool.
And prior to that, I would have been like, well, what is it? Is there something wrong? What's going on? Are you having issues? Is it about me? Is it this? Is it this? I was just like, cool. Yeah. I believe you. I trust you. Yeah. Done. I'll leave you alone.
And what's cool is you went and you got me flowers, and I called you later that night, and I came over, we had dinner, you had flowers, and I remember sitting back thinking, like, how dope is it that a couple things happened? Like, I told you the truth, and you were a man about it, and you then, as a woman, like, I felt safe with you being a man, being like, I don't need to be a little boy and go down and act like a freaking, like, make it worse. Because that honestly is one of the ugliest things in relationships, is when you really just want to be loved and accepted for who you truly are. That unconditional love of like, hey, today I have a huge pimple in the middle of my forehead. I'm crying. I can't zip up my pants because I ate too many apple fritters last week on the show. Like, whatever it may be, like, we want to be seen and we want to be heard and we want to be accepted for our darkness and our ugly and our not perfect. And that what's beautiful too is that's showing up as our best, that's me being my best that day. And that's one of the 4 agreements. And I loved that.
Yeah. I remember that day when you came back over, and, I get you flowers all the time. It wasn't just because you were having a shitty day. It was just a flowers day. Yeah. And I remember you saying, thank you for holding space for me. And I never had that exchange really before in a relationship where I heard you said, I'm having a shitty day. I listened to your words. I didn't take it personally. I didn't make any assumptions. I was like, she said she's having a shitty day, then that means she's having a shitty day. I'm just going to hold space. I didn't go into hero mode. I didn't go into like I'm going to save the world here. I'm going to send you 800 fucking text messages and send skydivers to your fucking house to like tell you how much I love you to try and make it better. I'm like, yo, you go do you. Handle your business. And when you're done, when you're ready, you said that you would call me and you did. Yeah. And it was like, cool, just keep going, right? That was a huge day for me because that was really the first time that I had to practice something different. And I wanted to practice something different because as a guy, I want to help. I want to save. My idea and my notion, I think most guys can relate to this. If your woman's having a shitty day, you like want to almost go overboard, overpour.
Men love to fix things.
And as I've learned in our communication and in learning more about myself and learning more about trying to fix things, like I'm not trying to fix you.
Because I'm not broken.
You're not broken. There's nothing broken. You're having a shitty day. I have shitty days all the time. And I tell you, babe, today's not my day. I'm mad at the world. I want to fucking kick everybody in the face, whatever. And what I love more than anything is when you're just like, cool. And the little boy in me, real talk, for many years of my life, like I would want you to pour into me. Yeah. And the reason is because I was never honest. And what I experienced in relationships was saying I'm good and almost like trying to keep someone away, but really wanting them to come in.
What is that?
It's
massive manipulation.
Talk about that. You mentioned something about that this morning.
Yeah, I see it all the time. I used to do it all the time. It's when I'm in a space where truly I want someone to be there for me. I want someone to hear what I have to say. I want someone to hold me if I'm sad. And instead, I use this tactic, which I'm sure a lot of you will vibe with this, is you say, I'm fine, but secretly you're hoping they'll chase you. Or you're like, you'll go, and to get this like need met, you pull away to get this like act of desperation so they chase after you. And it's manipulation. It's disgusting. I mean, you should be aware of it, and you should realize that is a disgusting habit. Get out of it. The truth is you should have enough cojones to look at your person and be like, hey, I would really like this from you. Do you have the bandwidth to give me, will you just hug me? Can we snuggle for a minute? Or can you hear me? Can I talk through this with you? And that's honoring yourself. If not, you're not loving yourself. You're being manipulative. And it drives me crazy because I used to do it.
Yeah. I can speak on behalf of men and tell you that men do that too. Yeah. And guys listening to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, really, you want your woman to pull into you. You want her to go do something for you. You want her to pour over you. You had a bad day. You got sued. You got a problem. You lost the deal. You know, your employees quit, whatever it is. And you're like, I'm good. You're like kind of pushing away. And somehow, literally through the four agreements, making an assumption that you're going to hear my cry of desperation. You're gonna magically somehow know that what I'm really saying is, hey, come fuck me, come give me something, come go buy me something that makes me feel better.
Tell me I'm beautiful.
Tell me that I'm fucking an awesome guy or whatever. And the truth is, like, I'm telling you, I'm fine. And that act is what you said. You said it's manipulation. I agree with you, but it truly is, in my opinion, the thing that separates real powerful couples, real powerful communication. And real powerful connection and playing small over and over and over again. And I will tell you that I did this for years. And it is so fucking maddening. So maddening where I would say this and I have expectations, right? I was assuming, I was taking shit personally. I had expectations where I'm good and I just want you to know that I'm not good. And I want you to do all of these things for me to show me that I'm okay. And really, if I'm not telling you the truth, I'm lying. Right. And this is something that I know without question, you and I, between 1.0 and 2.0, between you and I, like not being able to really be around each other, and then you and I really radically connecting, I think we understood this. Yeah. And it was in order for you and I to work, like truth is going to be the only thing that works. Yeah. And sometimes it sucks. Some days it sucks. Like, I want you to be happy all the time. You're jovial. You're the funny girl. You make me laugh. And when you have those shitty days, like when you're like, yeah, I'm having a shitty day, I'm like, no, like be happy. Go back to happy mode because it makes me happy.
Yeah, and that's a lot of why I developed that. Right. Is because I didn't have enough self-love. I didn't have unconditional love for myself to realize that, like, that's what I also held on to that. I also thought if I'm not jovial, if I'm not funny, if I'm not lighthearted and carefree and whatever, like I am most of the time, then I was unlovable. Therefore, I did everything I could to protect that from being seen, or protect the opposite from being seen, because I didn't feel like I was going to be loved or accepted, because I didn't love and accept that side of myself.
Right.
And it's really sad, because we see that in a lot of people. And our ego, I will go to ego as your mind, and your heart is really like where your soul resides, right? And so the ego loves being either the victim or the villain. Mm-hmm. And if you do journeys, you'll find yourself in an ego battle where you'll either be like, you'll go down this road of like, oh, woe is me, all this happened to me, and you become this victim. Or you villainize yourself like, oh, I'm such a bad person, I made all these, and you create this like, just this nasty hold on yourself, and then you carry that around, and it's impossible to live in the 4 agreements. Yep. Because you're not in your heart.
It's the drama triangle. Mm-hmm. When you find yourself in the drama triangle, you're one of 3 things. You're trying to be one of 3 things.
Yes.
You're trying to be the hero, which is what many, many, many men go into. I'm going to save you, right? Oh, you're having a shitty day? Look, I'm going to pour over you and try and save you from being sad.
Save you from yourself.
And the truth is, being sad and having shitty days is completely fucking normal. Imagine like not having them. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not possible. I don't believe that it's possible for any human being to live in a state of euphoria 24/7, 365. I mean, that's what Buddhist monks do.
Growth.
Buddhist monks are on a journey of like trying to master their mind, and you've never heard one of them go, I've mastered it all. They're not. They're constantly on a journey. You have to have the dark to appreciate the light. You have to be in the light to appreciate what the darkness can teach you. And that's something that I think is really powerful for people to understand is, fellas, when your woman says to you, I'm having a shitty day, let her have a shitty day. Mm-hmm. Don't try and fix it. Don't try and save it. Don't assume that it's about you, that you're a shitty husband or you're a bad guy. Let her have those emotions, right? Hold space, be there. And she needs to call you. She wants to talk about something. She wants a hug. Uh-huh. She wants to fucking snuggle. She wants you to bring home cookies or something, whatever. Do that shit.
Yeah.
Because you want the same thing. Fellas and ladies, knowing that if your guy has a shitty day, it has nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. And if he is impeccable with his word and he is telling you the truth, he'll tell you. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll tell you if you're bugging me. I'll tell you if I need something from you or I want something from you, right? But this is something I think is extremely important for people to understand, is that having shitty days is absolutely fine. It is okay. It is acceptable. It is absolutely normal. For you to have a shitty day or 2 or 3, you're not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. You are absolutely fucking normal. Ladies, you're emotional. Fellas, you're emotional. Fellas, you act like little kids, little boys, little babies. Ladies, you act like fucking raging lunatics. It is very true. Yeah. Correct? Am I wrong?
No.
And understanding that, I think this is why the 4 agreements and communication is so fucking important. Is me being good. When you say, I'm having a bad day, I hear you. I got it. I'm going to let you do your thing. You tell me, hey, leave me alone for a couple hours. I'm going to leave you alone. Right. Hey, I need this. I hear you. I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to do these things. There are so many people that are trying to live a life where they don't have bad days. They don't have shitty days. They don't have emotional roller coasters. They don't have insecurities. They don't have fears. It is not humanly possible.
Right.
What I believe and what you and I continue to talk about and practice is embodying the tools, learning the tools, using the tools to help you navigate through that, navigate past that. Communication is, without question, as we talked about at the very beginning, the single greatest tool that you have to be able to, number 1, understand each other, number 2, connect with each other, number 3, be able to build a life where you can appreciate those days. Mm-hmm. You really do appreciate them.
For sure.
Like you telling me that day, like, hey, I appreciate you holding space. I'm used to the hero showing up. Hey, be better. You better? You good now? You good now? It's like, just
well,
let
and
somebody be.
that truly like if when you hold space, that's telling me that's showing me, telling me in action that I am lovable, which, and this is we need to do this work on ourselves, but in a partnership, that's showing that you see me as lovable in that space, and being unconditional love is accepting and seeing things as they actually are. Conditional love is when you see what you want to see. And if it's not what you want to see, then you don't really like it. Mm-hmm. And it's, that's the importance of that. It's like, gosh, like it builds so much trust and confidence, and it literally alchemizes so much tension and insecurity when the person you're with doesn't try and fix you, because then subconsciously you're feeling like, oh, then I'm broken. Because if something needs fixing, it must be broken. And there's this thing to be very mindful of when you're on the other side of a person who's in a struggle, is maybe they just want to be seen. Like there's literally no action, because it's never going to be about you. And if you're going to bring value to their lives, just be in that space with them.
So bringing it back to, like, I want to cover all 4 of the points we talked about, like kind of talking about each of them individually.
Yeah.
Being impeccable with your word, the agreement number 1 is something that is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly scary to do, but probably the most liberating. And I would agree that you and I being able to tell each other brutal truth, radical truth, it's scary at times. It's hard to hear at times, but it is without question what has built the level of trust that I have with you, and the level of trust that I have in our relationship has come from radical fucking honesty.
And I believe the more you do it, it's not scary.
It's not.
It's not scary at all.
It's liberating.
Because I know now, and when you tell me something's going on, like I already know what the outcome is, because we always come back to this. So it might be uncomfortable at first because it's a transition into something new, and that change is always mildly scary. And, so I would say I love it now. I want to read this though. Okay. This is, be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean, which we've covered. Avoid using words to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. How many people do you hear when you're out and they're talking schmack on their partner? And what is that? I mean, what is that? What do you vibe off of that person? You don't trust them.
Yeah. Speaking negatively of your partner in public to other people it's just so telling of where not only your relationship is, but where you are as a person.
Yeah.
Like there's no more sacred relationship that I have than with you.
Right.
And for me to go out and to be out with the fellas and be like, oh dude, the old lady this, the old lady that, like, what are you fucking doing, bro?
Why are you with that person
and
then?
Listening, and you've talked about this because I don't want to say runs rampant, but it's very prevalent in the girl gossip group.
Yeah.
Reality is like always talking about your husband in a negative way, or saying just the nagging or the this or the that. Like, you're my queen. Like, you're my person.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't hold you to that reality and that truth, there's a big difference between talking about what's really going on in your relationship and doing that in a way that you're trying to build or trying to learn or trying to grow. But the gossip, gossip period is just, it's poison.
Oh, it's absolutely
fucking poison. But when you're gossiping about your person, dude, there's nothing more detrimental to the trust, the growth of a relationship than that. So, the second agreement is not taking anything personally. Talk about that for a second, because this is something that is very, very, very difficult to understand. Yeah. It's difficult to do, especially when you're with someone that you love, that you feel like you know.
Especially a very emotional, high energy, high octane
human
couple.
being. Guys, girls.
It's really easy. It would be really easy for you and I to take each other personally, because we don't live boring, like mediocre lives. We take on everything.
Yeah. What I have noticed about our relationship and what I appreciate is I for a lot of years, was in a space where I needed to be very careful with what I said because there wasn't a foundation, because there wasn't trust. If you said it this way, it should have been said this way. And I know that with you, because you don't take anything personally and you're not making assumptions, when I speak, sometimes I say things that go this way or that way, or sometimes it could be worded a little bit different, but you're not taking any of these things personally. You know what I mean? And I think that when you are in a place that you have a solid foundation between the two of you, where you've aired the laundry, you're talking about everything, everything's on the table, and you're really impeccable with your word, you know, it helps you to not take things personally. When you come home, or I come home and I'm like, this is what's going on, or I'm just having a shitty moment, knowing that person, your person, is in a place, appreciate, number one, the fact that they're telling you the truth, right? If someone's willing to tell you, hey, I'm having a moment, I'm having a shitty day, I tell you all the time, look, I really don't even want to talk to you right now. Yeah. And it's not an attack. I'm not like, fuck you. I'm not like raging at you. But how many times have you heard me say like, hey, I'm not in a place where I even want to talk to you right now.
Well, I choose to see you for who you really are and what you're really doing. I don't see you for that sentence. I don't see you for that emotion. I see you as, I know what you're going out in the world and doing. I know what you're facing, and I probably don't even know all of it because I don't live attached to your hip. But the truth is I see you in the long game of, you just need me to show up as your wife, as that safe space, and just let you have whatever it is. And I trust that you'll work through it. And it's an amazing, it bonds you more and more and more and more and more you practice it. It gets better and better. And it's awesome. And that's what will end up with the fourth agreement. Are you assuming that I'm skipping ahead?
If you're reading number 4, then you are skipping ahead. There's no assumption there. Because we're talking about number 2.
I'm scrambling them.
Go ahead.
I wanted to, because I don't feel like we've highlighted this one. Always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best, and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. And this, to me, is amazing, because it's like learning to forgive yourself for, maybe I didn't show up very good for you yesterday, but I don't need to carry that forward. Today I'm going to be better. Today I'm going to do my best. Today I have the awareness that yesterday I did XYZ. I now want to show up as my best with more knowledge, with more tools in my chest to be a better human, soul, wife, mother today, and won't have guilt. I've learned, and it's, I love that last one.
Women are emotional creatures, okay? Men are emotional creatures. Humans are emotional creatures. What I want you to speak to really quick, because I really love the way you talk about this, and I love how you are with this, is the not taking anything personally as a woman, right? Yeah. Because I know that there are a lot of things, just breaking it down to the carnal nature of a man, I forget a lot of things. I am running and I'm not perfect, blah, 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 blah. You hear about guys missing. You would
probably forget my birthday if it wasn't in your phone.
I would. I truly would. And I would forget a lot of other things. And this is what I want you to speak to, is this happens a lot. This is very, very, very prevalent in that a guy is building a business, working 9 to 5, whatever he's doing, and has a lot on his plate. I'm not making any excuses for saying breaking commitments. I'm not making any excuse saying guys are just dumb and they are completely irresponsible fucking human beings. I'm not saying that at all. Yeah. What I'm saying, though, is that there are a lot of things that happen in life that are insensitive in a way to an emotional creature. You forgot this, you forgot that. You said you'd do this, you said you'd do that. I told you to buy this, but really you bought that. A lot of these things. I want you to speak for a second to the men on like not taking anything personally from their women, and then also to the women of not taking anything personally in that regard. Like knowing that you're with a high-paced person, an entrepreneur, business owner, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Speak to that for a second.
Well, I look at it as like a scale. Like I'm willing to lose a lot of battles to win a war. And I know that sounds negative. Battles and wars are negative. But, I let a lot go, because what's the point of having to have every single thing be perfect? I don't hang on to little things. If you forgot something that's minor, I don't beat you up over it. I pick my battles. I don't care. I truly don't care. If I know it's something of great importance to me, I will continue to remind you.
Mm-hmm.
And I do. And I also don't beat you up for not remembering. It's, that to me is so, I want forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I want forgiveness from you. I want grace. I will not micromanage all these little things, I also see that, like, you have a lot of moving parts, and maybe I can better show up. If it bothers me, you're not remembering that we have, football practice on Thursdays. Maybe I should do something about it and help you. I'll put it on the calendar. I know you're going to look at. I will leave you sticky notes. I will, whatever it may be, it's how can I best show up in the direction of love for you to help you better do these, keep these commitments, because you're a high-paced person. And I don't think that I've ever beat you up. I honestly wouldn't let you forget my birthday, but I wouldn't be devastated if you forgot my birthday, because you are good to me every day. Like, you buy me gifts and you take me out and you prioritize date night. My cup is full all the time. Therefore, I don't have moments where I don't have these devastated, like, you didn't show up for me.
Well, understanding too that that's not, and taking things personally.
Yeah.
You forgetting something or you not doing something, I have two choices. And this is what I really want people to understand, is you're really good at this, is it wasn't a personal thing. Mm-hmm. Me forgetting something doesn't mean it's personal. It doesn't mean I don't love you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean I don't care about you. It doesn't mean that date night's not important to me. It doesn't mean any of these things. There's a real possibility that your person, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, forgetting something or being insensitive to something, it's not a personal thing. It's just simply what it is. I forgot something.
Yeah.
I did a post about this earlier with the wedding thing, right?
Yeah.
You wanted to jump in the pool with the wedding gown and the thing and the suit and get the picture. It wasn't important to me, right? It wasn't something where I'm like, yay, I didn't really give a shit, right?
Yeah.
But what I loved about our experience with this is that you never made it about you. You never made it a personal thing, like, oh, well, he doesn't care about my wants or my desires, or he doesn't care about me, or he doesn't want this wedding and this experience to be fun. You knew and saw that this was just a difference of two different realities. Yeah. And this is what I think is really important for people to understand. Honor that. Right. I know from experience that if you didn't do something or something wasn't done, I would take it personally. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, you might be dealing with your kids. Mm-hmm. You might be dealing with some shit. Guys might be dealing with things that take their mind or take their reality someplace else. Ladies, that doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. It doesn't mean that he loves you any less. It doesn't mean that he's a shitty person. It doesn't mean that he's a liar, that he's a cheater or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It might literally mean that in our carnal, baboon brain of ours, we just fucking forgot something, or something wasn't on the level of importance to us today that it was to you.
And nagging won't help fix the problem. I love it. I mean, I have a million examples I can come up with. And it's like at home, like you'll come home and you'll say, I promise I'm going to put these away. I'm going to put these away later. And in my head, I'm like, no, he's not. Because on a checklist, that is putting away a stack of coats or clearing off the table, whatever it may be, is so low on your priority list. I already know. I'm like, he's not going to do that. And it doesn't mean that I don't think that you're impeccable with your word. It means that he's seeing something that he wants done. He's verbalizing it to me. So you're trying to, or not you're trying, but you want me to know that you see that that's not acceptable or that's bugging you or whatever. And me showing up as my best, knowing that if I have the bandwidth for something like that today, I will take care of it. And I don't say anything about it. I just do it because I love you. And I know that that's bothering you. And I just show up.
I agree. I think though, to maybe disagree with you a little bit on that, is we're past that. Like I know that when we first got together, when we first moved in, I make my bed every morning. I just pull the covers up, put the pillows on, done and done. And you would always come by and you would always you'd redo the bed because you're all about the fucking frou-frou pillows and the whole thing. And we got to a place where I wasn't like, hey, I'm going to do, I would just say to you, like, look, why don't you just do this? Because this is how you want it done. And I want to be super clear. Like, I'm not going to say, hey, I'll clear off the table and then I just go do something else. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. But on the flip side, I'm also going to be impeccable and tell you, I don't want to do this, or I'm not going to do this. Or, do you see what I'm saying?
We're both good. Yeah,
so I
we're
think
both good at that.
Understanding and both men and women realizing that if it's something that you don't want to do, speak that truth.
Yeah.
Don't say I'm going to do something and then not do it.
Sure.
It's far more. It's far more in line of being in integrity and being impeccable with your word and saying I'm not going to do this, or I don't want to do this, or this is what this is, or this is, and then you run through. You're not taking it personally. Don't make any assumptions, so on and so forth. I think you and I have evolved significantly in that reality.
Yeah.
Significantly in that reality.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And saying like, hey, this is not important to me, or this is not, and like even sometimes communication where I'm in the middle of something, doing something, I'm like, I'll tell you, I'm not listening to you right now.
And I
need a minute. And you're not like, well, fuck you, I'm important, talk to me right now. When you see I'm doing something, I'll literally look at you and be like, yo, I'm not listening to you right now. I know you're trying to talk to me. You see that I'm doing something. I need 5 minutes and then I'll talk to you. And in 5 minutes when I'm done, I will talk to you.
Yeah,
and we do that, right?
Yeah.
And you're not like, well, fuck you, this is important and we need to do it now. Now, the house is on fire, different conversation, different reality.
There's a baby choking. Come on.
But I definitely think, like, just to further what you're saying is if you say you're going to do something, do it. Yeah. But if you're not going to do it, say that too. I hold people far more in integrity. You know, whether you say, all right, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to join here. I'm going to meet you here. I'm for sure going to go to that event. And then it comes time to go to the event. Just say you're not going to go.
Yeah.
Just say you're not going to do it. Like, be a person of integrity and say, I don't want to do this, or I can't afford this, or this isn't in my space right now. Then bullshitting your way along, and you know, same thing in a relationship. Hey, babe, I'll do it. And then not doing it. That's not being in integrity with your word. Where I'd say, hey, you got to get the kids to take the trash out because I'm not going to do it today because I'm going to be gone, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? Okay, so the third agreement, don't make assumptions. Talk about making assumptions. Because I'm an expert at that, making assumptions. Talk about making assumptions for a second.
Oh, I used to be really good at it. When you're a really insecure person, you're really good at making assumptions because the world revolves around you and your lack of worthiness. So everything that goes wrong in the world, you did that. Well done. I mean, I know it's very condescending, but it's kind of funny because I'm making fun of a former version of myself. And yeah, I assumed that if a person didn't call me back, I must have done something, or maybe they didn't like me anymore. People do this all the time in dating. I would assume that if you were grumpy, that there was some form of abandonment or rejection happening. It's so toxic. It's so toxic to make assumptions. And then if you step back and think about how egotistical it is to make assumptions too, and you're like that, you're literally thinking that the world revolves around you. You know everything. You absolutely are somehow influencing every single thing around you. I mean, is that even realistic to even think that could be real? No, not at all.
One of the things that you and I have been practicing and getting really, really good at, especially in being now married in a relationship, is being impeccable with what we say. And this is without question, it's a practice. It's not I flip a switch, I read a book, I'm good, no. Right? It is because there's hard conversations.
Showing someone a new norm.
Right. And I truly believe that if you are someone that struggles with assumptions, the single best thing that you can do and that your partner can do is be impeccable with your word. It's really easy to assume in life. I assume this, I assume that. Well, I assume that this is what you meant. I assume this is what you really wanted. If I tell you I want a cookie and you bring a brownie, well, I assume that that's what you really wanted because this is what you normally want. No, I told you I want a cookie, right? Like when you're in a place of certainty as an individual, that you can speak your truth, like effectively directly, poignantly. I truly believe that if you're someone that struggles with making assumptions, and it's really, really, really easy to do.
Your ego loves to be held accountable for all the horrible things in the world.
Your ego loves it, but what you said too is very true. When you're radically insecure, you assume everything. You assume that, well, they took 5 minutes instead of 3 minutes to text me back. That must mean well, they didn't say this, so that must mean they did say this, so that must mean The simplest way to bridge that gap, to literally rewrite that story, is truth.
Yeah.
Being impeccable with your word, period. Now, you're not attached to the outcome of that, right? I'm going to say something that you might not like. Cool. That's not what we're talking about. But if you're someone that struggles with that, I truly believe that what you and I have done over the last 6 months to really rewrite a lot of the fears that we have, a lot of the anxiety that we have, frustration that we have, fear that we have, has literally boiled down to us being radically fucking transparent and radically honest with each other.
And love. I mean, if you're conditionally loving yourself, you're going to assume that everyone else conditionally loves you.
Yeah.
And if we've grown so much in loving ourselves. Now we know that, like, if the other person is struggling, like, I'm still good. I'm so lovable no matter what is going on. That's a huge thing.
What would you say to people listening to this, women especially, who deal with the struggle of assumptions, of assuming the worst, assuming this, assuming they're not lovable, assuming that, like you've asked me, hey, do you like this outfit? And I will tell you no. I will tell you I don't like that. The other night, you put a thing on and I was like, I don't like that. Because you asked. And it's not that I'm saying you're fat or you're ugly or this or that. It's like not assuming any of that. That's just a direct question, and that's a direct answer. It's an honest question and an honest answer. What would you say to people that are struggling with that right now? Like listening to this, I identify as somebody who makes a lot of assumptions in life, a lot of things. How do they get over that?
I would ask themselves, why are they so triggered by someone else's actions? Like, why are you taking so much ownership in these things that are outside of your control? Like, I listened to a podcast with his son, and he talks, he's like, you only have control as far as your fingertips can reach. That's all that's yours. And anything past that is theirs. And if you are trying to make assumptions based on what they are experiencing in life, we are all experiencing complete different realities. So if I'm assuming that all this is about me, why am I so anxious to, like, jump into that? Like, what am I lacking that I feel like I need to jump in? And what it is I need validation that I'm okay. I need you to tell me that I didn't do anything wrong. I need you to fill my cup when that's such a sad, toxic space for you both to be in. Because if you're over here and you're having a hard day and I'm like, well, will you fill my cup though? But will you fill my cup? But I really need you to fill my cup. And you're like, girl, what the fuck? Like, I just told you I'm having a bad day and what? And this is a thing. And so I would get really, really, really clear with yourself is, why is this triggering you? Like, feel it. Why do I want to run to that scarcity? Why do I want to run over to him and need my cup full? Like, why is my cup not full? Like, did I actually do something? I mean, if you're actually doing something and if you're sleeping with the neighbor and your husband's pissed, well, you've got fucking problems. But I'm talking like, if you actually didn't do anything and he just comes home in a bad mood, it's like, try to understand why that's coming up for you, because what he's experiencing has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing to do with you.
Living in a place of scarcity is really, really difficult, and it's really difficult to live any of the 4 agreements when you're in scarcity.
It's impossible.
But it's really easy to also identify. And this is something that has been radically powerful for me, is the more transparent you and I are, the more honest we are. Not that there's this level of, but it's just literally rewriting the entire story, that when you say I'm good, I trust it. I make no assumptions. I don't make assumptions about your tone, about your body language, about how you look at me, none of that. Like, I fully expect the words coming out of your mouth are truth. And it is 100% up to you to do that, and vice versa.
Yep.
Like, not saying, making any, and it's such a powerful place to be in when you're not assuming things. When you truly like realize that what I just said is truth, and you have confidence in that. And if you decide to run off with that and make your own story about it, I don't really give a shit. But this is what the truth is. This is so important, not only for personal relationships, for marriages, but in business. In relationships with kids.
Being a parent.
We talk about that with being a kid, like the 4 agreements. We talk to the kids about it, but...
Yeah, we have 5 kids, and one of them in particular, I won't call him out, he struggles with speaking his truth. And he will, every time he'll be like, I'm fine, as tears are going down his face, I'm fine. And I know, I have the awareness because I'm a mother and I've been through life, and he's not. He hasn't been through a lot of life. I get eye to eye with him, and I'm like, you're not telling me the truth because you are crying. And instead of, expecting the child to show up with the 4 agreements and be this, I'm teaching him the importance of when he tells me how he truly feels, I can then understand and help him navigate and learn and experience life better than just bottling it up to where he's in a state of like discomfort and distress, where later he'll have to do deep trauma work to heal whatever he's bearing. And just having this awareness as a parent is, I recommend everybody read this. And then if their kids are old enough to understand this, have the kids read it and have conversations in the household around this. Because we have a lot of energy in our house. And if we didn't have these 4 fundamentals to build our entire house on, like, it would be crazy.
Yeah.
And he's just one in particular that it's like constant. I'm always like, speak your truth. Tell me what it is. And eventually, I'm hoping it'll catch on because he's little and it'll get better and better and better. But this goes for everything. This goes in the workplace. If you're gossiping, you're talking bad about people, or if you're not speaking your truth. I mean, there is nowhere in life that the 4 agreements will steer you wrong and not be powerful.
I remember really young. Bryn was probably... She was probably 12-ish, give or take. We were in Moab, and this was, it might even have been longer than that. But long story short, we're sitting around the fire. I'm having a beer, and this is kind of after not really doing the religion thing anymore. Mom's still super religious. I'm not. You've heard the story. My daughter asked me, what are you drinking? And I was like, oh, this is just a dad drink. And she was young enough that didn't understand beer and whiskey and those things, but she knew like what it was, right? And I remember the next day, she was super cold and she was very distant to me. And I'm like, babe, what's up? And she and I have a very unique relationship, as you know, where now it's just straight up, no bullshit. We don't fuck around. We speak truth to each other. So on and so forth. Yeah. And she looks at me. She's like, Dad, I know that you were drinking beer last night. And I was like, all right. I mean, that wasn't a big shocker to me. It's not like I was trying to hide it, but I wasn't being impeccable with my word. I was trying to skirt the conversation, skirt the reality, to just kind of move the ball down the road. Let's not address this kind of a deal. And she looked at me and she's like, I don't care that you were drinking beer. I just care that you weren't honest with me about it. And it was like such a pivotal moment for me with my kid, my oldest, to realize like I have 2 choices. This is the same thing with you. This is the same thing with my employees. This is the same thing in the marketplace. I have 2 choices. I can show the fuck up and be impeccable with my word and let you do whatever you want with it. Run with it wherever you want. You want to be offended by it. You want to be happy with it. You want to learn from it. I don't give a shit. But I learned in that moment, specifically with my kids, that they're very, very smart. And the more I try and protect them, lie to them, manipulate what truth really is, the worse that's going to be for them.
For sure.
And in that moment, I looked at her and I said, baby, I appreciate you saying that. I honor you for being that transparent and whatever. And I just told her, I said, I will never lie to you again. Yeah. And from that moment on, we've had really hard conversations. We've had very emotional conversations. But I think in talking to kids and dealing with kids, that one of the worst things that we can do, and I learned this in this experience years ago, and I've never spoken a word that's not true to them sense. I think one of the worst things that we can do is lie to them to try and protect them or save them. What's really interesting about that is I see why I was the way that I was in relationships, because I wouldn't speak truth because I wanted there to be peace. Or I didn't want there to be contention, or I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings, and I didn't want all of these things, assuming, taking things personally, thinking somehow I was this God figure who could manipulate everybody's emotions by what it is that I said and I did. And so I didn't speak truth. I didn't speak clarity. I didn't speak honesty. I wasn't impeccable with my word. And what I have found personally, not only in my relationship with you, but like with my kids, is that when I'm like really radically honest, it's going to trigger people. It will cause people to have an emotional reaction. That's completely up to them, but my job is singular. Speak the truth. And I think what a lot of people struggle with today, not only in relationships, but even through social media and this fucking cancel culture and everything else, is like we don't speak our truth anymore. We speak what we think is socially acceptable, or what will not hurt anyone's feelings, or what will be the path of least resistance, or what will be accepted by the masses, versus speaking your singular truth. And at the end of the day, it's caused me more pain and more strife and more frustration. And I think the reason that our relationship is growing the way that it is, and really is as powerful to me as it is, it's the most powerful relationship I've ever been in, I've ever had, is because of that singular reality. We speak fucking truth. And when you follow the list of the 4 agreements, and you truly step back and can analyze in yourself, like, I'm taking this personally right now. She told me this, I'm going to believe her. And if she's lying, that's on you. That's completely on you.
That's me.
If you decided to not tell me truth, and you said, I'm good, and I'm going to play poker with the boys, because that's what was scheduled, and then you start texting me going, I can't believe that you left. That's all on you. That is 100% on you and has zero to fucking do with me. I truly believe that no matter who's listening to this, no matter where you are in life, if you become like ruthlessly committed to living and embodying the 4 agreements, being impeccable with your word, not taking anything personally, not making any assumptions, it will change the dynamic of your relationship with your kids. I truly believe it's what will empower children to be you having that relationship with your boys, and showing them that, and being impeccable with your word to them, not taking anything personally. You know, I mean, it's funny when somebody says, I'm fine, and they have tears rolling down their cheeks. It's like, look, man, I got a couple of years on you,
like,
and I'm going to go ahead and call bullshit on that, you know? But I truly know that you embodying that and living that more and more in your life sets the example. Like, you could be 20 years into a relationship and inject this into your life, and it will change the entire dynamic. You inject being impeccable with your word and telling your partner the truth around sex, around money, around any of that, and it will change the entire game. And if you have a person, if you're with a person who doesn't take things personally, isn't going to make assumptions, it takes practice, 100%. But the only way to get there is by doing it. The only way to truly rewrite the story, somebody's saying right now, well, we're here, we're there, we've been married, and this is how it is. And then write the fucking new story. Write the new norm. Make truth the new norm. Make transparency the new reality. And it might hurt for a minute. It might sting for a minute. You might hear things that you don't want to hear. You might hear things that hurt your feelings. You might hear, after the last 10 years, I've faked every fucking orgasm and you suck in bed. Well, that might be her truth. And if that's truth.
But the only real truth is what's in the present moment.
Right.
And if she's saying that, what's really beautiful too is like, if we all step back and get off of our high horses and our egos, and we realize we are all just human beings. And if you let go of, I've been, this is a huge takeaway. I hope that I want to give them something to think about. If you're in a long-term marriage, if you've been together for a long time and you haven't been living in the 4 agreements, none of that matters. What's happened in the last 20 years is really irrelevant to this moment we're in right now. You can change your life in every new breath. You can literally do that. This is where truth is right now. Anything beyond that is not real. Anything beyond that, or behind that rather, is just a memory. it's not even real anymore. The only thing real is this moment with you and I talking about this, continuing to do better, accepting that sometimes we will fail. And as long as we're growing, as long as we're in a forward motion and we have a lot of grace, life's going to be good.
Mm-hmm. Amen. I agree. Ladies and gentlemen, get the 4 Agreements. It's on Amazon. It's all over the place. Don Miguel Ruiz is the author.
$13. It should be worth a lot more.
It literally has changed, I know, both of our lives, but I truly believe that...
I think this was the bathtub book.
It's
a little
you can tell what
wavy.
Books have been in our bathroom because
we have a stack of books next to the bath.
Communication.
Yes.
Telling the truth, being super, super, super transparent with your emotions, with your heart, with your mind, with your desires, being impeccable with those words. It changes the game, man. And I strongly encourage people listening to this to understand that, like, what you just said is dead on. If you start today and you're both in agreement that this is what we want. We want a new level. We want to go to a completely new reality in our relationship. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, literally embody this today. Read this book together as a couple, read it individually, read it as a couple, and fucking live it. You live this, you use this, you put these tools in your tool chest. There's literally no problem you can't solve. Mm-hmm. There is no child that is too far gone. There is no relationship that's too far down the path of not being able to be resurrected, if you will. Yeah. Embody the 4 Agreements, live the 4 Agreements, be impeccable with your word, and it changes the entire freaking game.
Oh.
Anything else, babe?
No. That was good.
That was good. Great job living the 4 Agreements. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Please, if you got some value out of this, share this on social media. Leave us a comment. Leave us a review. We really, 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 truly do appreciate it. If you have questions that you want us to ask on the next Q&A episode, great. And without question, please share. There's very few books that I encourage people to share. The 4 Agreements is one of them. I strongly encourage you that if you've already read it, give a copy away to a friend. Yeah. Go get it. I have nothing to do with this. I have no affiliate link. I make $0 fucking dollars off this, but go buy this book. Yeah. Read this book. Read it many, many, many times. Embody it and build a new reality.
Love it.
Love you, babe. See you guys.
Love you, babe.
Peace.
Bye.